Get ready to step back in time and hit the road with some of the most legendary campers ever built. From the rugged power of the 1969 Ford F-350 Chinook to the indestructible 1968 International Harvester 1300B and the groovy 1969 Bedford CA Dormobile. Yup, the same model loved by the Beatles. These classics aren't just campers, they're rolling pieces of history. Whether you dream of retro adventures or just love vintage design, this lineup is pure nostalgia on wheels. Don't forget to subscribe for more epic campers and classic RV legends. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back where classic steel meets questionable life choices. And I believe today's star might just be the heavyweight champion of both, the 1969 Ford F-350 Ranger Chinook Camper. Now, before we fire up this beast and accidentally scare every squirrel in a 5-mile, 8-kilometer radius, go ahead and smash that subscribe button so you don't miss the next time I stall something worth more than my house. This truck is the kind of rig that makes you ask, do I really need a mortgage, or can I just live in this thing? Built on the F-350 dually platform, it's packing a 390 cubic inch, 6.4-liter V8 engine, rated at 255 horsepower, and a burly 376 pound-feet of torque. That's enough to haul the camper, your in-laws' luggage, and still have enough grunt left to tow your buddy's boat. Even if his boat leaks more than my neighbor Dave's excuses for not paying me back. Power runs through a 3-speed automatic transmission, and I think that gearbox is about as forgiving as a high school gym teacher with a whistle. This Chinook isn't some plywood shack slapped on a truck. Oh no! Step inside and you're hit with retro luxury. An overcab bed, folding dining table, dual sinks, a 4-burner range with oven, refrigerator, heater, and even a combination shower and lavatory. I like the most the detail of an 8-track player, because nothing says road trip like listening to Fleetwood Mac on a tape that warps halfway through Go Your Own Way. Curtains, cupboards, intercom system, and power outlets make it feel like a rolling studio apartment, except the rent is just gasoline. And trust me, this thing drinks like a frat boy on spring break. The cab? Red vinyl bench seat, matching carpet, and air conditioning, a rare luxury back in the day. It's got a horn ring, a 100-mile-per-hour speedometer, though I believe the camper hits white-knuckle speed at about 65 miles per hour, plus gauges for oil, coolant, fuel, and alternator. The odometer shows 50,000 miles, about 80,000 kilometers, with 2,000 miles, 3,200 kilometers added under recent ownership. Maintenance since 2022 included new batteries, a rebuilt carburetor, radiator hoses, and a fuel pump. In other words, the big stuff that prevents this thing from leaving you stranded while your buddy Dave says, "Don't worry, I'll call a tow," and then forgets. Rolling on 16-inch steel wheels with BF Goodrich Commercial TA 235/85 tires, this rig has power steering, drum brakes, and a dual-wheel rear axle. It's not built for speed. It's built for stability, which is exactly what you want when the person driving is more excited about roasting marshmallows than watching the road. Sold in April 2024 for $31,000, around 28,500 euros. I believe this price makes sense for such a survivor. Original manuals, owner's paperwork, and a Utah title sweeten the deal. Honestly, it's cheaper than some modern camper vans. And unlike those, this one comes with stories baked into the walls, and probably a faint smell of bacon. So if you're into road trips, history, or just want to own something that turns more heads than a new sports car, the Ford F-350 Ranger Chinook might just be your ticket. And don't forget, there's a link under the video if you want to dive deeper. No, not into my questionable comedy career, but the official website with more details. And hey, if you enjoyed this little time capsule tour, consider becoming a sponsor of the channel for just $1. That's right, $1, less than the price of the gas this camper burns just idling. What if I told you there's a camper out there that looks like it rolled straight out of 1968, complete with shag attitude and steel tougher than my neighbor's meatloaf? Well, buckle up, because this International Harvester 1300B Mitchell camper is exactly that. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, when I first laid eyes on this 1968 International Harvester 1300B Mitchell camper, I thought my neighbor had finally gone and bought himself a time machine. I mean, this thing looks like it just rolled out of a catalog where the hairstyles were taller than the trucks. But no, this isn't sci-fi. It's an honest-to-goodness piece of American steel, with more character than my buddy Joe after 3 cups of diner coffee. Now, the 1300B isn't your average weekend camper. Under the hood is a 345 cubic inch V8, that's 5.7 liters for my metric friends, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission and a dually rear axle. In other words, this beast wasn't built for speed. It was built to drag your whole house up a mountain road without breaking a sweat. It pushes around 193 horsepower and enough torque to tow your neighbor's shed if he doesn't return your lawnmower. The seller put some love into this rig. Brakes and carburetor overhauled, fresh Falcon 750 series tires on 16-inch steel wheels, spark plugs swapped, and even the roof reinforced. They tossed on a Dometic rooftop air conditioner, which in 1968 would have been considered witchcraft. And speaking of details, chrome bumper, towing mirrors, ball hitch, and even a black finished extended rear bumper with hoops for bike wheels. Because why not haul a camper and then strap your Schwinn on the back too? Step inside and you're greeted with wood grain paneling, vinyl flooring, and a cab-over bunk that looks cozier than Earl's sofa after poker night. The galley's got a stainless steel sink, a Wedgwood 4-burner stove, and a vent hood. Though, full disclosure, the fridge and water system are on permanent vacation. The dinette table's missing, but hey, that just leaves room for a folding card table, which is all we used growing up anyway. The cab is old school cool. Tan vinyl seats, vent windows, push-button AM radio, sorry, no Bluetooth, and a Stewart Warner tachometer hanging off the column. It even has a jump seat, so your friend can complain about your driving while you grind gears through the Rockies. Price-wise, machines like this have been crossing the block anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 USD. $37,000 to $56,000, depending on condition. This one, with its fresh paint, reinforced camber, and working AC, sits right in that sweet spot. Sure, there's some rust here and there, and the water closet wall's been patched with tape. But if duct tape was good enough for NASA, it's good enough for us campers. I think what I like the most is how this truck is unapologetically itself. It's not trying to be flashy or modern. It's a rolling time capsule that screams road trips, campfire smoke, and maybe a few questionable decisions made in national park parking lots. So, if you're like me and you believe a vehicle should come with a story, not just a warranty, then this 1968 International Harvester Mitchell camper might just be the hero of your next adventure. Sold by GKT to another Loriner for USD $8,500.0 July 23, 2025. Ever seen a camper so British, It could probably sing Hey Jude better than you? Well, this one actually crossed the ocean just to prove it. Ladies and gentlemen, you ever notice how some campers look like they're ready for a weekend in the mountains, and others look like they're ready for a cameo in a Beatles movie? That's this 1969 Bedford CA Dormobile. When I first saw it, I thought, man, if this thing could talk, it'd have a Liverpool accent and ask me if I wanted tea before we hit the road. Now, the Dormobile here isn't just any rusty relic. This bad boy was refurbished in the UK before crossing the pond to the US in 2020. It's wearing a flashy red coat with white trim, like a British schoolboy who got lost on the way to class and ended up in Connecticut. Under the hood, you've got a 1.5-liter inline-4, about 92 cubic inches for the American crowd, paired with a 3-speed manual. The motor's been overboard, rebuilt with a new camshaft, fresh valves, an electric fuel pump, a custom battery box, and even a radiator made to factory specs. I think that's the automotive version of a spa day. It's got a pop-up fiberglass roof with glass panels and candy-striped sides, a roof rack for your surfboard or that one folding chair you overpaid for, and sliding side doors for maximum Eurovan cool points. The inside? Oh, I like the orange vinyl seats with cream inserts the most. They scream late 60s optimism, like they were designed before anyone thought shag carpeting was a bad idea. There's also a kitchenette with a stove and sink, a composting toilet, perfect for when the rest stop is just 2 more exits, and fold-down seats that transform the space into a cozy sleeping area. Let's talk wheels. White painted steel, chrome hubcaps, wrapped in Vitor V2000 white walls. Braking's handled by 4-wheel drums, so plan your stops like you're flying a cargo plane. Suspension is an independent coil spring setup in the front, live axle and leaf springs in the rear. Top speed? The speedometer says 90 miles per hour, but I think if you hit 70, you're already in letter to your insurance company territory. Now, price-wise, you'd expect something this unique to run you more than your first apartment. And you'd be right. On the current collector's market, a Dormobile in this condition could fetch somewhere around $28,000 USD, 25,500 euros, depending on whether the buyer values charm over horsepower. And I believe, if you roll up to a campsite in this, you're not just camping, you're hosting an event. A buddy of mine once borrowed my old VW van for a fishing trip and came back with more mosquito bites than fish. If I'd had this Bedford back then, I think he'd still be parked by the lake, making tea in the kitchenette and waving at passersby like the mayor.